This is my prediction for the AL East. This is more for documentation purposes than it is entertainment, but obviously you can watch. Basically, just want to go back at the end of the year, see what I got right, see what I got wrong. And I think starting in the AL East is the best way to go because I think it's the most interesting division. I'm a Red Sox fan, so I watch for the most of it. I watch a ton of Yankees too, so I'll start out with the seeding, I guess. I do think the Red Sox will come in first, but that's probably biased. They have great young core, made good moves in the offseason. I have Baltimore in second, Yankees in third, Toronto in fourth, and Tampa fifth. I think Boston will end up 90 win range about, somewhere around there. Baltimore 88 wins, around there. Yankees 87 wins, Toronto 83 wins, and Tampa 80 wins. So the whole division will be within 10 games is my prediction. I think every team is more than capable. So starting off with the Red Sox, I'll go in order, is Duran in left. And these lineups are predicting their majority lineup, median lineup. So there will be guys that may be injured right away, but I expect to play most of the season. So Duran leadoff, Casas second. I think it's important he hits second at first base. Bregman at second base for now. Devers at third base, batting fourth. Yoshida DHing, batting fifth. Story batting sixth at shortstop. Depends on how Story's season go. He could be batting fifth just to have more alternating handedness on the lineup, but we'll see how Story hits and if he can stay on the field. And then Abreu right field. Another guy, he was sick earlier. I don't know if he's going to start the year on the opening day roster. Connor Wong catching, and then Rafaela in center. I think the lineup has potential to be top 5 in the AL. I think it probably will be around there. And I think the defense will be better than last year. But worst possible scenario is the lineup is mediocre like it was last year, and the defense is bad like it was last year. And I think it will be better, but I didn't include Anthony Campbell or Meyer in these projections because haven't reached the majors. You don't know what to think about them yet, unless they really force their hands for opening day. But I think the lineup is good. I think the defense will be okay as long as Story is healthy. And then I have full faith in Bregman to play second as well. And Devers at third. It is what it is. Casas at first. He has looked better there recently. And then Rafael in center, Abreu right, Duran left should be the best defensive outfield in the MLB. So the rotation. Well, I suppose I'll go all lineups first. So second place would be the Orioles. Let me find them. Leading off, I have Gunnar Henderson at short. Then Adley Rutschman catching. Hopefully he has a better year this year for the Orioles' sake. Jordan Westburg playing third base. I think that's where he'll end up playing if I had to bet. Cowser batting fourth in the left. O'Neill batting fifth and right. O'Hearn DHing. And then Mountcastle. I think those two will probably switch based on the handedness of the pitcher. Or O'Hearn might not even play versus lefties. I think that's how they do that, if I remember right. Mountcastle 7 at first base. He's a better defender than O'Hearn, I think, overall. And then Holiday at second. Mullins rounding out the lineup in the center at 9. I think Holiday was the only, if you go to the baseball reference page, you look at the 2024 Orioles, Holiday was the only player who had a position last year who played the majority of games there who didn't have an OPS plus over 100. I think he was at 66, really bad. But he won't be that bad this year. He'll at least have probably an 80 OPS plus, and he's a good defender at second. So I think the Orioles lineup is the best in the division, even if they don't have even if around Henderson, it drops off pretty quick. But I think they're the most well-rounded group of position players. So Orioles best lineup, probably best defense too, and then Red Sox second best lineup. And then we have the Yankees in third place, and I have their lineup as Jazz at second. I believe he'll play there. I'm 95% sure he'll play the majority of games there. Judge and right, batting second. Bellinger in center, batting third. And then I have Stanton at DH. I'm assuming he'll get the most DH time, like all things considered. He also might miss the whole season, so I'm being bullish on Stanton's ability to come back. I don't know why, but the lineup looks a lot better with Stanton in it. And then Wells batting fifth at catcher. He's a fine hitter. Goldschmidt batting sixth at first. Dominguez 7 in left. Volpe 8 at shortstop, and I put Cabrera as a third baseman because I think he's the best they have there. The only thing that holds me back is that Boone likes to keep him on the bench so he can kind of just sporadically throw him into games. I think it's stupid, but it's what he likes to do. So I have him batting ninth at third base. Yeah, you take Stanton out of this, it looks a lot worse. You probably move Goldschmidt or Dominguez to the 4 spot. And then I think the defense will be okay. But you have so much relying on Judge that if he goes down again, you can't win 90 games with Chisholm and Bellinger and Wells leading the way. I think their defense is good, though. Wells is a fantastic catcher. Judge, good right fielder. Bellinger and Dominguez in center and left is not a great... I don't know how well that whole outfield as one will work. I'm assuming Dominguez will get better than he has been. But I'm not sold on the defense. Volpe, good defender. Cabrera, serviceable. And then I guess it's on to the Blue Jays. But the Yankees' worst lineup, we've said so far, even with Stanton in it, I think. So, my friend wanted to watch some basketball, so I had to go do that. So on to Toronto's lineup. I have Springer leading off in right field. I'm not sure if he'll lead off again, but they're paying him a lot of money, so I think he will be. Vladdy batting second, I'm assuming. Usually want your best hitter hitting second, so. Santander in left field, batting third. I think he'll have a pretty good year there. The ballpark's easier than Camden. Could definitely put up 40 home runs again. Not a huge on-base guy, but Springer and Guerrero should get on enough so that Santander can kind of feel free to swing away. So Santander left, Bichette shortstop. I think he'll be fine. Last year was an outlier. I like Bo Bichette, the player. Hope he plays good, and I hope he gets a contract to play third base for a team next year. Will Wagner, DH. he's kind of one of those Blue Jays where it's like one of their plethora of young white guys who I don't really know much about and can't tell the difference between. So, but his numbers are fine. He should be a fine DH and then fill in where need be. Varsho, center field, batting 6th. Good defender. A little bit of pop. Terrible contact skills. Good player, though. Kirk, batting 7th at catcher. Could say a lot of the same about him and Varsho. Jimenez, second base, batting 8th. Kind of 3 very similar players in a row. And then Ernie Clement, good contact hitter, third base, batting 9th. Toronto's lineup is not as good as Baltimore or Boston's. I think it has potential to be better than the New York's, but I don't think it is right now. It has potential to be if guys figure their stuff out, and then you have to have Varsho, Kirk, and Jimenez be able to contribute on the offensive side too. But people are down on Toronto. I don't think they're a bad team at all, and this lineup is fine. Tampa's lineup start out Brandon Lowe, second base, leading off. Great player. Just stay healthy. Yandy Diaz, first base. In the 2-hole, good contact hitter. Caminero, I have batting 3rd at third base. Should be a good player. Should have a good year. Josh Lowe, I have in the cleanup spot right now in right field. I don't know if maybe they move him to lead off or him to third, but batting 3rd. I don't know. And then Aranda, DH, batting 5th. Maybe he'll bat cleanup. I don't know. Morel at 3rd, batting 6th. DeLuca in center, batting 7th. Danny Jansen catching, batting 8th. I really liked that move for Tampa Bay. I think Danny Jansen is 1 year, $8 million. I expected him to get more. I think I think under the hood he's a better player than what his stats showed on the surface last year. And then Taylor Walls, shortstop, batting 9th. Pretty much just he's there until Carson Williams is there, right? So, Tampa has the worst lineup of, I think, pretty easily. Even comparing them to New York and Toronto. In terms of hit power, it's not there. You have to have Lowe, Diaz, Caminero, other Lowe have great years. It's not very deep at all. I think it's most comparable to Toronto's, where after the first half, it becomes a bunch of pretty good defensive players who can't hit very well. But yeah, so ranking the lineups, I think Baltimore has the best. Boston is second. Right now, I'll go Yankees third for now, even with Stanton out. And then I'll go Toronto fourth, Tampa fifth. Now that I'm looking at it, I think the Yankees should lead off Austin Wells, but that's a different topic. Defensively, I think Baltimore is also the best. And then I think it's Toronto. And then I think Tampa, Boston, New York that completely interchangeable, depending on how some of that goes. I think Boston's got the best defensive outfield. But Toronto, they got Jimenez, and maybe Toronto isn't as good as I thought. Jimenez and Varsho is good, but Kirk is good. They're good up the middle, but I don't know. These are all very close. There's not a clear favorite. There's more gap in talent in the hitting power than there is defense, I think. But Baltimore, overall, best position players, then Boston, then New York, then Toronto, and then Tampa. And then now on to the rotations. I think the best one is Boston again, and I have it so far. Crochet, Houck, Bueller, Giolito, and then Bayo. Bayo might not be ready. I'm not positive. Crawford's out. But if Bayo's not ready, it'll be Richard Fitz, who is fine. I think whether Bayo's in or out, I think Boston still has the best starting rotation. And then New York, still waiting to see what happens with Cole and Heel. It's not good. But let's assume the best for Cole. Let's say Cole, Fried, Rodon, Schmidt, Stroman. It's not bad. Not bad at all. Potential to be better than Boston's. Top 3 in the division for sure. And then we have Tampa's, who I think potentially is the best, but could potentially also be the worst. If everyone's healthy and doing their thing, Tampa will have the best rotation. And that's McClanahan, Rasmussen, Bradley, Pepio, Boz, and then Littell for whoever gets injured. A lot of guys coming off injury, but McClanahan, you're not going to bet against. Rasmussen, not going to bet against. Taj Bradley was good last year. Pepio was good last year. Boz has good stuff. And Littell was a solid player last year. I think he led them in B-War. And then Toronto, Gosman, Barrios, Bassett, Francis, Scherzer. This is a really underrated pitching staff, I think. Gosman, I've always been huge on him. He's an innings eater. Lots of strikeouts. Barrios. The FIP doesn't love him, but he's always solid. Ever since he was with the Twins, he's always been a guy who a solid 3, sometimes plays up to a 2, and then sometimes plays down to a 4. But with his time in Toronto, especially the last couple of years, he's been that 2 level, I would say. And then Bassett, solid 3. You might want a little more out of him than you got last year, but solid innings eater. You know what you're going to get. He's got a lot of pitches, a lot of pitch mix. Bowden Francis, Toronto fans are really high on him, and he had a good year last year. But I don't love the underlying numbers with Bowden as much as other people will. The ERA looked good last year. He was able to go deep into games too, which is valuable. But just because I'm not as high on him doesn't mean that he's not a great 4 starter. I think that's perfect for him, and I think he can pitch up to a 3, possibly a 2 at times. So that's a really good spot to be in. And then Max Scherzer is your 5 starter, and I think, he hasn't had an ERA over at 4 or over since 2011, I believe. And people act like Scherzer's washed. He is not washed. I could definitely see him having 25 starts for Toronto this year, 3.3 ERA, and he's your 5 starter. So Toronto, again, it's a team, could be one of the better rotations in baseball, but they're just very consistent. Their ceiling isn't as high. There's no Crochets where the ceiling is all the way up here, but there's the Gosmans, the Barrioses, the Francises, where the ceiling's up here and the floor is about right here. So Toronto's probably going to be good. And then the outlier really with the pitching staff is Baltimore, which is not a good rotation. I think the other 4 teams have solid rotations. And then in Boston's case, you have a lot of depth. New York, you have, Fried, Rodon, Schmidt, pretty solid. And then Tampa, you have those young guns with broken arms who strike guys out, are really good, but they get hurt. Then Toronto, solid. But Baltimore, I love Eflin. I've always thought he's been undervalued. But he's their ace, that's fine. You could see him sort of having a Corbin Burns-esque year, like Burns had last year for Baltimore. You don't want to count on it, but that's a reasonable possibility. I had Grayson Rodriguez in the 2 spot. He's hurt now. Doesn't sound great. So I think it'll be Morton in the 2 spot, just because he's the most experienced. You pay him $18 million or whatever he got. I don't love Morton for the 2 spot. I don't know if I love Morton for the 3 spot. I don't know if I love Morton for the 4 spot. With all due respect to Charlie Morton, he's had a great career, but he is 41, 42. I don't know how much they're going to get out of him, especially with Grayrod out, who Grayrod should not enter your season as a number 2. He's never had an ERA plus over 100. He's injury prone. You need more depth. Baltimore, what are you doing? Nick Pivetta was right there. Why did you not go get Nick Pivetta? That's a separate point. Kramer, I like Kramer. He's a solid 4, but he's going to end up being a 3 to start, or 2 to start the year. And then Sagano actually looks pretty good. Wouldn't be surprised if he and Eflin become the 1-2, at least before the trade deadline. And then you have Podich. Bradish, I don't think, has come back, but Povich, I believe. It's a lot of question marks for Baltimore. They're comfortably the worst rotation in the division. They also have the best position players, in my opinion. So balances out a little bit. I still think they're the second best team. But this division is really tight so far. And then the bullpens. New York has the best bullpen, and they're going to need it with Heel and Cole situation. Tampa's bullpen's always going to be good because they're fucking annoying and they know how to figure that shit out. But I don't know a lot about Toronto's bullpen. I don't have great impressions of it. Romano's out. He's in Philadelphia. It's a lot of question marks for me. I think Baltimore's bullpen is going to be good, and I think Boston's will be okay. Baltimore gets Bautista back. Still have Cano. Still have Sir Anthony Dominguez, I believe. I should double check that. But I like Baltimore. I like what they do with their bullpen. So that ranking, I would probably have New York 1, Baltimore 2, Tampa, Boston, Toronto, all kind of tied in that last spot, like a lot of these rankings. So overall, I don't think Boston's the best at anything. Potential pitching staff, if Crochet, Houck, Buehler, Giolito, Bayo all live up to their potential. That's not a given, though. So I'm going to say Boston's still the best team in terms of well-rounded roster construction and depth, because that's what's best about them. They have depth. Second is Baltimore. Baltimore could end up easily being the best team. Their offense could definitely outslug the lacking they have in pitching. And then I think it's New York or Toronto. New York, it depends on a lot of these injuries. They could definitely stay alive. Dom Smith could be a good DH for them until Stanton gets back, if he gets back. Dominguez might have a good year. Bellinger, Wells, Chisholm, a whole year of using that wall, or the shallow porch. Their numbers could end up looking really good. And then obviously Judge, a top 2 player in the MLB. So New York is my 3 right now. Even with the injuries, I think their stars are still good enough to pick up the slack. And then Toronto, I think, is going to be better than a lot of people expect. They still have Vladdy. They still have Bo, who's going to be fine. Santander, maybe an overpay, but you know what you're going to get. He's solid. They need a bat, and then Varsho should be able to cover cover Santander's weaknesses in the left. And then they got good defense up the middle with Jimenez, Kirk, and Varsho. Clement's a fine player too. Will Wagner's going to do his job, and then the rotation's okay. Should be okay. It's the safest rotation, but it's not the best one. And then Tampa, I'm expecting them to finish last, but you just never know with them. They're smart about how they do things. Could win the division, and that's really the theme, I think, of this division. You could flip my order, and I wouldn't be that shocked. I would be a little shocked. I wouldn't be that shocked. It's definitely overall best division in the AL, and it could pan out any which way, and I don't know. I have an idea. I don't know, though. I sure didn't predict it right last year. I had the Yankees finishing in last, which is mostly bias, but against them. But I don't know. We'll see. It should be fun. It should also be messy. And then, Baltimore really should have gotten more pitching. They could have run away with the division and eventually the AL, but they are not too interested in spending that money, which if they end up saving that for a Gunnar extension, can't blame them. But, O'Neill, I think if he doesn't get hurt, he's a better player than Santander, but he's going to get hurt. So, see how that works out. But, yeah, Boston, Baltimore, New York, Toronto, Tampa is my order. Things will change. I will get things wrong, but this is a documentation of my predictions, and we'll see how it turns out.